Hey everyone, wanted to do a recap of this outlier week in which we had a lot of big news drops, but also Labor Day. From the beginning of the week, we could have prepared for an outlier move, as is detected very often by the fractal. When we have an outlier week, we can expect outlier moves. How is this week an outlier week, you might ask? Well, there is missing a day. When there are holidays, data gets skewed and therefore positionings adjust quite a bit and lean towards outlier moves. This happens quite often on weeks where there are holidays. And this is a kind of insight that you'll be able to see with the fractal. When you just do back testing with the fractal, you can see these pushes to extremities. And was very well evident this week with Labor Day and with NFP. So I want to show that in the beginning of the week, we had these levels that hit really well. And it was very interesting because it was being detected in the system. These levels were for quote unquote a Monday, but it was a holiday. So when I was doing a QQQ analysis for my NQ chart, you could actually, none of this actually moved from day to day. So this was very interesting. So you see here that the dead zones were made the same. And we had this push down. I mean, it was just exceptional how these levels worked for both days. And then on Tuesday, you see here on NQ on the left, ES on the right. These worked perfectly. And on Tuesday, we had this large push down from overnight into RTH with a double bottom and the push up. Now, what happens oftentimes with the double bottom test that you see, we get this pattern that's recognized in fractal communities called a dragon pattern, which basically is just a double bottom, rally, pullback, rally, or mini rally and then pullback rally. So, but I mean, it's not just anywhere. It has to happen at key levels. And so we saw that here. Boom, boom, rally, pullback, boom, rally. And then we had another pullback and then another rally. Pullback, another rally. And then it just kept rallying and then massive, massive drop. So I want you to see this for yourself because this is really, really helpful when we go into future weeks where there are holidays. It's missing a day, so it's an outlier day. We don't have holidays every week, unfortunately, but it helps us to interpret the data a little bit better. So one of the key things that we noticed this week is that it was very important to pay attention to spliced levels. What do I mean by that? Well, on Tuesday, we had this spliced vector tested and we didn't come back. Break and retest. It ended up stopping at this wave 10, 15, 10% and 5% band. But on Wednesday, we had the low at a spliced closed state that was previously a double bottom. And it didn't come back. On Wednesday, on Thursday, we had the bottom spliced imprint on the wave 1 daily. It was a closed state double bottom, previously closed. It was not an open state. It was a closed state. Hit that, didn't come back. It went all the way for a spliced L1 target. And then on NFP day, we just floated and then hit our RV wall, came back down away and tested ultimately our wave 7 daily vector and wave 20 daily vector with the median range right there. It was perfect. But on these weeks where we're missing a day, which is an outlier week, we can start paying attention more to the spliced data that will give us insights where this day would be missing or a particular day would be missing. So we could lean on week over week data when there is a day missing that would have added to helping us understand the narrative that was going on throughout the week. because this day did not get registered in the week's data. So that would be one nice hint for future holiday week trading. On ES, not much of a different story. The low of day was at an imprint zone on the wave 1 daily spliced. Here, similar situation, the low of day. I'm sorry, not low of day there. We had a pivot and then we had a push up to the top. But on ES, oh, that's what it was. I remember seeing this. The splice vector was the high of day. And when you look at NQ, the low of day was a spliced imprint. And here, low of day was pretty much the midline of the yellow box. And then finally on Friday, the day of NFP, we had float. And then the high of day was at this spliced imprint, which I mentioned in market preview that was where I was looking for shorts at 42 to 45. I said verbatim, we will have a 90-point move on ES. And 6541.75 minus 6452 is 89.75. So I was one tick off, but I mentioned it about a long time before. I don't want to do that math right now. So you get the idea. Pay attention to the spliced imprints because that will help fill the gap when data is missing. You can replace that little gap of information by looking at week over week data or the splice data. So outlier weeks produce outlier moves. Hope this helps. Definitely take that into account. Add it to your little notebook for fractal-based trading. And I hope you have all a great weekend.